the individual, the I, which comes, and at the beginning, in the first stage of awakening, it's just I. Then it looks to define itself, to give form. And it comes to I am. The search begins. Consciousness begins to search for form. Consciousness, in this sense, is very powerful. When we become conscious, we step immediately into the present moment. Consciousness is connected with time. We talked about the time aspect of form and how formlessness is not inside time. So the first structure that consciousness hooks into is what was and what will be. This is how thinking emerges. This happened and this happened and this happened, which means I fear that this happened and this happened. This is where the healing begins, in the reformation of how we see ourselves. This is where SE is happening. There's a story from what was, which is told, and which is held also energetically, which in the present moment becomes available to be seen from another perspective, from another position. Consciousness is very much connected with the now. The more we become purely conscious, the more we see that everything that was is just existing in the now. Everything that has ever happened, every history, collective history, private history, is upheld in the now as memory. Everything we imagine our future to be, or we project into the future, our imagination of what will be this afternoon is happening in the now. So consciousness is, in a way, in the now, formless, in the level of form as we know it, although in some ways it's still a form of perception. Doing time. We're doing time. So when we do nothing, like in the exercise yesterday, we also opened a possibility to stop doing time. Sounds like a prisoner, but we're doing time here as human beings. We will be let out at the end.
Consciousness is doing time?
Consciousness is doing time. Not in its purity, but as it's moving through the human perception, it's doing time. It's structuring through time, which in the first place is past, present, and future. And the present is the center point, which is the opening to something behind perception, something deeper. So in inner growth they call this awakening, waking up, which is really a metaphor, because the opposite of this is not sleep, which is a beautiful thing, necessary, rejuvenating. It's more illusion, dream state, reactive patterns. And waking up is when the patterns break. You have an awakening. But you awaken to something. Something is awakened. In itself, awakening is not an end point. Becoming conscious of conscious of conscious, it's like a window opens. In a way, you recognize yourself again. There's this newborn I. And freedom. Existence, we call this. Behind the window of consciousness, the whole window is just a window. It's the light, this existence which is flowing through it. I exist. Is almost more comprehensive than I am. looking for an identity. I exist. Some people have this periodically throughout their lives, this awakening and reawakenings. Others don't quite know what we're talking about. But it's always a function of letting go. Letting go of thoughts. Letting go of beliefs as absolute and permanent. Letting go of imagination. And letting go in the sense of not identifying with, not in the sense of rejecting it or making an either or. The thoughts are happening, we take the investment out of them. Awareness is much more connected with feeling. Our perceptive ability to feel, the am, the being, I am, leaves you in the space of how does it feel to exist as you? How does it feel? What is the feeling around being Natalie in general? And this in itself has a refinement. How does it feel? What's the essence of this feeling of being here? Bob called it the felt sense. So we have our senses, eyes, ears, touch, smell, and we have the felt sense, the feeling sense. With no story. So it makes it hard to describe because I can say, you're feeling, and I start a story already. But it's an energetic thing, to feel an energy even without naming it. The moment you name it, consciousness is beginning to structure. The Tibetans call it sentience, the sentient. We are sentient beings. So it includes animals, it includes sentience. The Tibetans, in their language, call this the sentience. Sentience is feeling. They talk about sentient beings, feeling beings. So you can communicate with a dog, for example, through feeling.
Through sentience.
They're very much in being. Not identification, being. Awareness is moving through everything. So there's and is very much there. It expands, so you can sense the whole atmosphere of a room through awareness. And it's really the individuals in the room doesn't interfere with our ability to feel the atmosphere, which is there. What is known as this movement beyond regular awareness to awareness of awareness of awareness, and this refinement of feeling, refinement of love, allowance of feeling. What it leads to in terms of inner growth is what is classically known as enlightenment.
The what?
Enlightenment. What happens with awareness when you become aware of our awareness, feeling the feeling, not the feeling as an object, but feeling that which can feel, which has quite a different flavor to consciousness. In a way, consciousness dissolves, and you go into pure sensitivity of feeling, refining. What happens is that we become wider and wider and wider, and opens up this feeling observer, something which is really observing, but it's not observing a thing, it's observing with these kind of loving eyes through everything. Where there is suffering, it is suffering. Where there is joy, it is in joy. It's a very soft observation which is beyond form.
There's no division.
Beyond the physical. And this is, again, a function of allowing ourselves through the movement, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be.